What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another live stream. Happy pay-per-view week. We've got UFC 292 on deck this Saturday, featuring two championships on the line. Of course, the main event, bantamweight strap between Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley in a very good grappler versus striker matchup. And we have, of course, the women's strawweight belt on the line between Zhang, Weili, and Amanda Lemos as well. So a pretty star-studded card, even though we have a lot of short notice replacement fighters. I know guys like, Marlon Vera have a new opponent. Bautista's got a new opponent. I mean, there's been a lot of shakeups on here, but still we have the Ultimate Fighter finale, two divisions there as well in the prelims that we just got notice of a couple days ago when that last episode aired. So it's been a lot of work this week trying to get all the tape done and get some bets in. And, last week we killed it. Full sweep of the board, all the bets cashed. Had some crazy parlays cashing towards the main event as well. The week before that, we were all except for one fighter correct. So hopefully we bring that energy into this week. But man, I feel like an insane person. I was just telling my guest backstage, right now I only have underdogs on the money line so far. So looking to add some other spots, looking to add some props before the week is over. And I've got an awesome guest on the show this week. First time on the show, the MMA Prediction Guru. He's been working for years on YouTube, sites like odds.com back in the day. I remember watching him with, all the big hitters like Bleed, Lock of the Night, CJ Safdie, Clint. And that's kind of when I got into watching his content. But as you get into doing content yourself, you just lose the ability to watch everybody's shows. But been talking to Guru in the DMs. We're on the same page with a lot of underdogs the past couple of weeks. So hopefully we find some similarities and some bets this week. So it is an absolute honor to bring in one of the most profitable gamblers in the sport, the MMA Prediction Guru. What is going on, my friend?
Yeah, man. Like you said it's an honor. It's a pleasure to come on the channel, man. I've seen you do these live streams. I've seen you do the predictions, and it's fun. You're talking about Odds HQ. We were talking about a little bit before, and it's like, that era of YouTube was kind of fun, right? It was like a lot less channels. And then a lot of those guys, it's kind of cool. It's like they're still doing their thing, like I still have my channel going on, Just Bleed, he's still doing his channel. Obviously, Clint, and I don't know if you remember the old school show, like before we got Cody and Lock of the Night on there, who they're both still have channels. But like we had Boston Nick, he's at Pub, he does Pub Sports, so they're still killing it over there. DFS is for Pub Sports, he has his channel. So it's like everyone's still kind of doing their thing. Even Mo Scream, like shout out to him. I don't know if like he's still even on YouTube anymore, but like he used to be an awesome host, man. That guy was really good. So I used to love that show and it was fun. And now, I kind of, like I was telling you before, I kind of want to get back into doing content with other people, talking back and forth. So did a couple with some other people. Now I'm doing one with you, and hopefully we can, keep doing them. And man, looking forward to breaking down the card for sure.
Yeah, but man, you sell yourself short. You're pretty humble, but you are one of the most profitable guys, always on the top of the leaderboards on Bet MMA Tips. I know you have your own, I think you've got your own Patreon, which I linked in the description as well. Your channel and Twitter are there so people can check you out. But as far as like assessing value on fighters, I think you're one of the best for technical analysis. So it's a pleasure to have you on for such a big card. So thanks for joining us, man. We got 12 fights on the card to break down. It was about like 9 or 10, at the beginning of the week. But like I said, those Ultimate Fighter tournament finales got added onto the slate. So some pretty exciting fights, though. As far as the Ultimate Fighter fights go, I got to be honest, like it's definitely not like a Forrest Griffin, Diego Sanchez tier, season of the Ultimate Fighter. But, some of these guys, we've seen them already in the UFC, weren't really impressed or mesmerized by their performances in their back. So what do you think about the Ultimate Fighter this season? Did you watch it at all?
Yeah, like I was like, what do you think about that whole format? Like, I don't think they should do that again, like rookies versus veterans, especially if they're going to bring in like the prospects they're bringing in, like 31-year-olds and all that. Like, if you're going to do a prospects, like bring in like some legit guys, to fight some UFC veterans. But I thought that was weird. Like, they obviously got crushed, and then we have the two, it's veteran versus veteran in the two fights in the finale.
Right.
But I will say, though, the one fight, I do like Kurt Holobaugh. Like, I was a fan of him before, like his first, I guess his second time in the UFC because he had that one fight. But when he fought, like, Raoni Barcelos, that fight was, like, really good. And then he dropped, like, Burgos. So, I'm kind of hoping he can get the win and get back in the UFC. But, yeah, like you said, like it's kind of a weird format, especially with Conor. You'd think they would have came with like some better fighters or something, like they just let his team get slaughtered. But I guess it was his choice at the end of the day to go with the prospects. But Yeah, I didn't really think it was like a great season. Like I feel like they could have probably done a lot better, with the star power they had.
I think like the average person off the Contender Series these days would dust these guys, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like especially some of the prospects they had. Like I didn't really get it. Like even they had that one dude that lost to Rosas on Contender.
Mando Gutierrez. Yeah.
And then he got knocked out in like 30 seconds or whatever by Cody Gibson.
Yeah, so it just seems like a weird waste of time these days when you got the Contender Series. But I liked back in the day, the Ultimate Fighter, they'd have it more like MTV's Real World, where they would just like fill a house full of booze, just bring the most problematic people into the house and try to make them train.
Yeah, that was what was cool. It's like they would have way more of like the drama and like the fighter. They would do those fighter challenges. I guess they only do one a year now, right? But they used to do like multiple, where they would do like the two fighters would do like it was like a lot type of different show, or it wasn't just like just the fight was like the main attraction of the show.
I remember they had they had when Dan Henderson and Michael Bisping did it, I think Michael Bisping made Dan Henderson like play soccer against him one-on-one or something like that. Like it was they did like British versus American sports.
Those
were the days.
And then they used to have like, I feel like they did better job of like match people up that actually had like real beef. Like when they did like Quinn versus Rashad and like Tito against Shamrock and all that. Like those are like actual real beef. So it's funny to like see the back and forth and all that. Where I feel like Chandler and McGregor, they have like no issues with each other at all. Like,
yeah, and it used to be the culmination of like the teams would fight and then the coaches would fight for sure. Then they kind of got away from that. Like sometimes people would get injured, the fights would fizzle out. Now they have like no real agenda of ever having those fights get set up. So.
Yeah, and like, fuck, is Conor even gonna fight Chandler? Like, no one even knows, right? Like,
no, he's probably gonna fight Gaethje.
Yeah.
So all right, enough ranting on that. We can shout out the chat real fast before we break into it. Got my guy Jussie Q in the house saying, "Oh hells yeah!" We got my guy Blood Money MMA Bets, my man Cody and Johnny K just did their stream just moments ago. So good to see them in here saying, "What's up, Patty?" Should be a fun show. BC Dave in the house. What is going on, my man? Running the Tapology group over there, holding it down. We got Ryan Jordan in here saying it's going to be a killer card. Absolutely, dude. No matter what you say or like or dislike about Aljo or O'Malley, they definitely are a draw to the sport. So I'm right there with you, man. Should be a good card. My guy Shady in the house, dropping the weightlifting emojis in here. Cody showing his love for Aljo, saying Aljo all day. My guy Tyler 138 MMA in the house. Agreeing with our sentiments of the old school Ultimate Fighter. Uncle Weezy in the house. What is going on? Loving this card from a betting perspective. Man, I know my man Uncle Weezy is down to chase some dogs, so hopefully he's on our side with some of the underdogs that we have picked. And man, let's get into it. Yeah, BC Dave talking about Sugar Sean defending on his back for 4 rounds. Sounds about right. Man, we will see, man. It's on paper, that seems like that might be the case, but we'll get there 12 fights from now. We start off at the bottom of the prelims with a women's flyweight bout between Marina Moroz and Karine Silva. Now, this is an interesting fight because Karine Silva getting a pretty massive step up in competition here, in my opinion. Not that Marina Moroz is, some title contender, but she's fought some, right? Like she just had that, it was a decently competitive striking bout against Jennifer Maia that she lost. But Marina Moroz has been in there with some killers, like, wins and losses that have aged pretty well. Surviving against Mayra Bueno Silva, going in there against finishers like Maria Agapova and, ground and pounding her out. Karine Silva just seems like she's young and improving, but she has not been successful late into fights before, and that's always a red flag, especially when you're a favorite like she is, right? She's we're looking at Karine Silva minus 155, the favorite right now, plus 135 for Marina Moroz. It's almost like last week's fight as far as the money line goes, like Isaac Dulgarian having all of those really fast finishes in his career. It's like, is he going to look terrible after round one if it goes there? Maybe, maybe not. We don't really have proof of that. But with Karine Silva, you've got a much bigger pattern of fights where she's not seeing the later parts of a fight. So I can have a little bit of justification to fade her in this spot and take Moroz as an underdog. And that's what I've done. I put 1 unit on Moroz at plus 145. I just think that she's going to use her, long striking weapons. Whether they're effective or accurate, at least they'll be out there to range find. And as long as she can stay safe from the submission threat, I think she can wear Karine Silva down as this goes on. So I'm gambling on the experienced veteran here. Do you have any more faith in Karine Silva than I do?
No, man, we're starting off, we're talking about if we're going to match on the dogs, and I actually have the same bet. I got 1 unit bet on Moroz at plus 145.
Nice.
And I like the bet, man. I mean, these girls did fight, which I think it's kind of irrelevant. Like, I mean, it was like 9 years ago, but Moroz, she like pulled guard in that fight. It was like a really quick fight. She pulled guard like within the first 10 seconds and then armbarred her like within a couple minutes. And that's kind of Moroz's thing on the ground. Like, if there's anything you have to be careful for, like in terms of submissions with her, it's definitely that armbar when she's like in full guard from bottom. So that is kind of something to think about too, because like, is Silva going to be, as confident shooting and taking her down like she has been these other girls, knowing that that's a main weapon of hers, and she already got caught in it before. So if she keeps it standing, I feel like Moroz is going to have the advantage there with the volume. I think obviously Silva is powerful and explosive early, but Moroz has never been finished, and all of Silva's wins are by finish. She's never won a decision. I don't think she's even won a fight that's went into the third round. So there's a lot of things that I like from Moroz here. Another thing is Moroz has done good against these girls that are finishers. Like, she beat Agapova. She beat Mayra Buena Silva. And both those girls, they're kind of similar to Silva, where they're like trying to get the finish and they don't win a lot of minutes in the fight. So I feel like as long as Silva doesn't become the first girl ever to come out here and kind of just blast Moroz out in the first round or submit her, then I think Moroz kind of, her full package, I think her grappling is underrated. Like, you see her elbows and her ground and pound is good. So I think she can get on top of Silva. Maybe after the first round, Silva gets a little tired, beat her there, or beat her standing. So I think Moroz is going to get the job done in this one. It's just Silva's dangerous. We've seen her get all these finishes, and it could happen, but I'm with you. I got Moroz.
Got our guy Uncle Wheezy as well with 1 unit at plus 150, really just kicking us in the dick with the closing line value there. Look at this guy with an extra 5 points on it. But yeah, dude, I was just thinking in my mind, I'm like, why can't I think of more Marina Moroz fights? Like, we talked about MAB, we talked about Agapova, we talked about Maya. I'm like, what's been in between? And I forget that it's a bunch of cancellations, right? Like,
yeah, she has like more cancellations than fights in the UFC, it seems like. But
yeah, I wonder, is this injury, or is this because like her country was under attack, or what's going on here?
I don't think it was because I know I'm pretty sure she was always at ATT. I could be wrong. Yeah. Like, I don't know what it is. I think it's just her just pulling out of fights. But
yeah, I'm looking at Tyler Santos, Moroz withdrew, Manon Fiorot. Moroz withdrew.
Yeah, she got out of a lot of the hard fights, right?
Yeah, right. But then even Luana Carolina, Moroz withdrew. So even some easy ones, she's kind of backing out. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about the striking in this one? Because I think Karine Silva's got decent striking. It's just her hands aren't the best, her kicks are decent, but it's like very one at a time. Whereas I think she might be a little bit like, maybe muzzled or suppressed based on just all of the activity that Moroz has. Like I said, whether it lands or not, I just think those long striking weapons are going to do work just to back her up. Do you think that Moroz is like a much, much better striker?
I don't know. Like, early on, I think like in the first round when they're both fresh, I think Silva is going to be able to kind of compete on the feet because she's more explosive and powerful. But I think if she can get in the second and third round, I think her striking will be a lot better because I think she'll be able to kind of just out volume her, really, even if she's not landing, like you said, just throwing a lot more going forward. And I do think Silva will get tired. Like, we haven't really seen her be successful later in fights. Even that fight on Contender Series, it seemed like she was getting tired. So, yeah, I feel like as long as Moroz doesn't get finished for the first time, I think she has a good chance to win.
We're looking at the over-under set at 2.5. The under 2.5 is at plus 105. Do you have any interest in that for this one? Just because Karine Silva, obviously that's her path, is probably getting a submission inside the distance. Do you think Moroz has any finishing upside in this fight?
Yeah, the one thing I was looking at that I thought, I don't know what the prop is now, but I saw it was like over like 1,200, 1,400 for Moroz to finish like round 2, round 3, or finish by maybe like by KO, TKO. So I think those props could win. I mean, Silva, she's almost all her fights end inside the distance. And I think like if she gets tired, Moroz has shown she could finish on the ground. I think she's finished the majority of her wins too. So, but yeah, I think I don't really like Silva that much this week, even like to pick her inside the distance. But I would more pick Moroz inside the distance in the later rounds. I think would be good value potentially.
Yeah, I know. I think the money lines always get like the markets love when young female prospects are finishers and they have round one finishes.
Yeah.
Like markets just love that for some reason. So easy spot for us both to take the underdog here to start off the night. Hopefully it goes our way. Got some more people rolling in here. We got our guy Any Action Effie in the house. Everybody go check out the Any Action Sportscast. Keep on bumping this guy's channel up, man. He does great work. And he's got a shoey bet with Johnny K picks in this one. Okay, he's on the underdog with us. I like that, man. I just kicked Johnny's ass in a shoey bet with taking Justin Jacoby the other week. I always want to call him Justin. Fight Talk only in the house. And what is up, boys? Saying hi to Uncle Weezy as well. We got our guy RDO saying it's been a while. I'm from Brazil, but I'm a Boston Bruins fan. Nice to see a UFC card in Boston. We cheer for any NHL team. Dude, all I watch is combat sports. I don't even know the rules to hockey. Is this what he's talking about? You watch any other sports, Guru?
Yeah, I'll watch some other sports. I'm more like NBA and NFL, but I'm out here in Vegas, so I did go to a couple games, and they won the Stanley Cup, the Golden Knights. So I guess I'm a fan, but I would be like a super casual. It's kind of crazy. I wonder how many freaking hockey fans there are in Brazil, though. He's probably like one of the only ones, right? You think?
Dude, how do you have time to watch other sports, man? Aren't you capping like I even see you dropping, other promotions as well, content like, you'll drop like Aries FC content and shit like that. How do you have time to be watching the NBA?
Well, I've been like I did for a while, like I had another full-time job and I was doing this and then I was going to school and I graduated and then now I still have a job and it's more because like I don't know, dude. Like before, I wasn't working during nighttime, and I would just go do stupid shit, like spend money and all that. So I was like, I'm just gonna work like 3-4 hours at night just to kind of like do something. And most of my work is just doing this betting stuff. So it's like, if I kind of want to like screw off one day, it's not that big a deal, But so I could go and watch some. I like I used to live in North Carolina, so I like the Charlotte teams, which they aren't that good, but like the Hornets and. So I'll watch some of their games, but I'm not like someone that'll like watch every Sunday, like every single game or whatever. It's more like I might go to the casino with someone like 2 times a week and watch some games and all that. But I'm not like a rabid sports fan besides combat sports either, really. But I
like the people on Twitter that are betting on like dropping bets on basketball, football, baseball, MMA.
I have no idea how they do that. Like if you're doing like MMA betting, like where you're betting, like at least how I'm doing it, or even if you're betting UFC and like Contender Series and PFL, like not even these smaller cards like Aries or whatever, unless you're like have like an algorithm that's doing all the work for you. Because I do know some people do that, like where they're just like putting in a computer and then they're just putting a bet on whatever. So that makes more sense. But if you're like doing it like through like trying to say you're like watching these girls basketball games, you're gonna bet on them, like I don't believe that. But I guess there is some people that do that but man, like that'd be tough. You'd have to be spending like 18 hours a day watching sports.
Just Adderalled out at all hours of the week. Shout out to our guy Brady in the house, DFS by the numbers. And our girl Moroz has shown some great fight IQ pulling out of some of these fights. Absolutely correct. Keeping her record intact. But I'm right here with you, Tyler. I don't even know the rules to any other sport besides this shit. So
really, so you don't even you couldn't sit down and watch a football game? You couldn't do it?
My girlfriend tries to teach me the rules to it, but it's never been in my family. Like my family was always just mixed martial arts growing up. So
do you watch like boxing and
boxing, kickboxing? I'll watch jiu-jitsu. So
nice.
Like
okay.
That. But yeah, man, it's my only true love is this sport. Any other sports, I'm like, there's too many people in the goddamn field. What is going on here? It should be 1v1, and they should put the ball down and fight. That's how I could fix the sport of football. But I digress, man. We're on the same side of that. We can move on to another women's flyweight fight. Andrea KGB Lee taking on Natalia Silva. This is a really fun fight, but the money line is pretty wide on this one. We've got Natalia Silva, one of the hottest prospects in the game right now. She is all the way up at minus 310 on BetOnline. Andrea Lee plus 260, the underdog. Now, this is a fight between primarily two strikers, man. And when it's like a women's flyweight bout, Andrea Lee seems to be pretty durable. She's pretty experienced. Natalia Silva's good, man, but she's been fighting a couple of cans outside of Jasmine Jasuda Vicious. So inherently seems like this money line should be closer and that there maybe is some value on Andrea Lee, but Natalia Silva just looks so goddamn good and athletic that I gotta pick her in this spot. But how do I play this from a betting perspective? It just seems like I don't know where to go with the Silva side here. Would you be parlaying her? Would you be finding some prop for her? What do you got on this fight?
Yeah, to me, it's just a pass, man. I agree with you totally, because it's like, think about where she's, like you were just saying, her last fight was against Victoria Leonardo. I mean, is that girl even like a top 100 fighter? You could probably find like some random chick that's like working out 3 days a week that could like compete with Victoria in a fight. So it's like she's going from that to Andrea Lee, who just, I thought she beat Macy Barber. I mean, I think a lot of people did. And Macy Barber's like top 5 in the division. So it's like you're going from like one of the worst, like just a random girl, to one of the best in the world. So I think the money line is off. Like, I would line it closer. I still would give Silva like a decent edge, like maybe like minus 200. But Andrea Lee, I thought her wrestling looked really good against Macy Barber. So I do have to give her credit for that. It's like she's getting older, but her performances are getting better, man. Like, she got that knockdown. She almost finished Aroju. And she's been doing a lot better recently, I feel like. And this is a striking fight, like you said. Like, if you look at Andrea Lee's losses, it's usually against girls that just can take her down and kind of lay on her and hold on her. So this fight, I do think it might be competitive early on, like the first round and a half. But I feel like Andrea Lee's going to try to wrestle a lot more in this fight. And I think she's going to be not as – because I think in that Barber fight, at least for me, I wasn't expecting her to wrestle like that. So – I think Silva will see that and be able to kind of do a little bit better with the takedown defense than Barber did. And I think Lee will get tired, and I think Silva will probably win the second and third. But yeah, I don't even want to parlay her either, because it's like I really can't see her. I could see her losing. I definitely feel confident she's gonna win, but it's still sketchy for me, man. Like, I feel like you could see like her just fall off a cliff or something. Like, who knows? Like, I've never really seen her hit heavy. So to me, it's just a pass, but I still think Silva probably will dominate the fight and either win like 30-27 or 29-28.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that, man. It's and if there's one advantage I would give Andrea Lee, it's probably the boxing, like the pure traditional boxing, right? Because Natalia Silva comes from more of like a Taekwondo background. So she's got really good movement. Her kicks are super fast from the stance, and she does have some power. But, I think Andrea Lee's got better ability to probably counter those kicks with punches.
Yeah, I think Lee does have better hands. Like, because you look at her, all of Silva's KOs are head kicks, I think, or most of them.
Yeah, or at least set up that way. And that nice spinning back kick on Teresa Blada's giant head in round 3 end of last year. So, yeah, I mean, I think she's athletic enough to just circle off, not get held down too much. Even in that fight with Barber, I don't think Andrea Lee was racking up like tons of control time off those takedowns, but it was annoying. And I think it was enough to win the fight, but she didn't get the nod that time. And speaking of that, yeah, she fights very close in a lot of spots. Like, a lot of her spots are split decisions. That may or may not have gone her way. So always in the game. She's never been knocked out before. I think the line should be closer, but we're both taking Natalia Silva here. Just not a lot of good ways to play it. It's just like I mentioned in the last fight with Karina Silva. They get really excited when they see some finishes from a female fighter at this weight class. And, they just juice up that money line like crazy. So not much we can do with this minus 310, but yeah, my guy, Bunny Hunter in the house saying Andrea Lee sprinkle just because the strength of schedule is better. Dude, not a bad way to play it. Honestly, the money line is getting a little out of hand. You're getting close to what did I say? Plus 250 or something like that? Plus 260 on Andrea Lee, even better on some other books at this point. So, hell, I can't disagree with it, man. One of these women's underdogs is going to come through. We already got Marina Moroz.
I bet that might be like the biggest underdog Andrea Lee's ever been in her career, probably. Like, because you look at her, like, she's usually the favorite in all her fights. And maybe the Barber fight, she was a decent underdog. But
yeah, man. Let's see here. I haven't Pink Floyd in the house. What is up, dude? Saying I haven't had this much all parlayed on a fighter in a while. I got it on 2. Let's go, Team Silva. I'm rich or broke. 2 fights into the card, dude. When you've got parlays like that, hinging on the prelims, that is kind of like a double-edged sword. Like, it's very nerve-wracking at like 5 p.m. Yeah. Like, you got to start drinking early.
You're going to be like, if you lose that bet, you're going to be like fucking pissed watching every other fight for the rest of the night too. Like,
yeah. Or just getting drunk and chasing your loss, which I don't recommend, but it's happened before. What is up, Gregory Moody in the house? saying what's up to Brady as well. And man, talking about Weidman about to win. All right. We'll see about that, man. But I do like this side of things. Blackshear about to pull off the upset. We'll get into it as we move on to, man, this is a fun fight between two grapplers. We got Gerald Meerschaert taking on Andre Petroski at middleweight. And Gerald Meerschaert's a hometown hero. We both grew up in the same city. He's a guy that I used to watch the fights with back in his early UFC career. And man, now training down south at Killcliff, doing good things. But yeah, he's 35 years old at this point. He's had a hell of a lot of fights, and a lot of them come from behind victories as an underdog. So, betting Gerald Meerschaert as an underdog is just something I generally do. I do have 0.7 units on him, and I've got another 0.15 units on his inside the distance and his round 3 as well. So, look, I could see him getting chinned in round 1 by Andre Petroski, who carries heavy hands early, but I would give, the early power to Petroski. I'd give the wrestling, of course, to Petroski, but all that wrestling offense is going to leave a lot of opportunities for Gerald Meerschaert to work some BJJ magic, that tight guillotine he's got. He's got dangerous sweeps, active guard, and man, both of these guys have had some success in round 3. So I don't know, man. I had to take my guy Gerald Meerschaert. It's just I see some people having mixed results with picking his fights. Like, I see a lot of people saying they can't really get a good read on when he's going to come through as an underdog and when he's not. I just bet him most of the time, and it usually evens out profitable in the end. So what do you think about Andre Petroski and his cardio in this spot specifically? Do you think he will fade as this goes towards 2 and 3?
Yeah, that's the question, right? Like, that's what's going to give GM3 the win if it does happen, I think. Because we have seen Petroski get really tired in other fights. It's just I do think early on, like you said, he has a chance to knock him out. But I do think it's a dog or pass. I am picking Petroski to win the fight. But I think, GM3, when you get these spots where it's like an inexperienced guy that's not really a great striker. Like, Petroski's like an explosive, powerful guy, but it's not like he has like a great striking pedigree. He's a grappler, wrestler guy. So you'd think, like, he always calls out all these grapplers too. Like, he's called out Bo Nickel. Obviously, he's called out GM3 before. So if he comes out here and just like knocks him out, or he's like trying to do a striking fight, like, you think like it's like, I don't know why you think he wants to try to test his grappling against these guys. He's saying he's like the best grappler in the UFC and all that. So I don't know. You did, like, when he fought Maximov, he was like that guy's a legit black belt, and he like submitted him in like 30 seconds, which was pretty surprising. But I just don't see him submitting GM3 like that. I think Nick Maximov's like a young guy, and he probably just got overzealous there. GM3 has like 55 fights, like you said. So I could see, if it gets into the later rounds and GM3 can get like his southpaw body kick going, he could maybe, make Petroski wrestle and like panic wrestle and submit him. But just with GM3's age and everything like that, I just feel like Petroski's probably too physical. He trains over there with those guys in Philly, where they have like a really good grappling gym, and they have like Sean Brady and all these guys where he's grappling with them. So they're probably going to have him on point with the submission defense, and I don't think GM3 has a huge chance to knock him out. So it's like, I think Petroski either could finish him in the first or win the first 2 rounds and then kind of lose the third. But if I had to bet it, I would bet it GM3. And I do think betting him in round 3 is smart too, because it's like, what GM3 is going to bring. He's going to be pressuring you. He's going to be trying to kind of create that chaos with his southpaw stance and submit you somehow. So he's going to have the gas for 3 rounds, and you don't really know that about Petroski. But yeah, just as a pick, I'm going to pick Petroski to win, though.
Yeah, it was Gerald Meerschaert at plus 212. I have for 0.7. Then I put 0.15 on the inside the distance at plus 300. And the round 3 in general at plus 1,400. That's on DraftKings right now. So yeah, I was happy to see those. I mean, Gerald has never won a decision in the UFC, so the inside the distance is a must. It could always happen, so I'm always going to put the bulk of the bet just on the underdog price and not get greedy. But this guy's a finisher, and you can look at his record and say, wow, this guy's been submitted. Gerald's been submitted like 8 times in his career, but 7 of those are as a very young professional. He had a lot of fights, a lot of activity, and he's only been submitted 1 time by Jack Hermanson in the UFC. The rest have all been TKO stoppages against some pretty good killers. So yeah, Andre Petroski certainly could do it early, but as far as the technical striking goes, I mean, Gerald is, I think, super underrated with his kickboxing out of that southpaw stance. He did body kick KO Eric Spicely. Like that could probably do damage on the liver of Petroski in this spot too if he gets tired going down the stretch. I forgot who pointed that out. Oh my God, real fight picks in the house. MPTV saying Gerald's got better striking. I think he does, man. He's just a little awkward early on. But as the fight goes, I think his output could definitely start adding up. So
it's just the speed, right? Like he's not. I think Petroski early is going to be way faster, but technically GM3 is a way better striker, I would say.
And it's about like filling the moments too, because you're going to have Petroski like having a big burst of activity and then kind of like recharging that energy bar, you know. And in between, I think Gerald could do some work in those spots. So we'll see, though. I mean, he's a big underdog for a reason. You know, you got how young is he? He's like 32, right? Petroski, he's not even that young, but
yeah, he's not that young either. Like I guess you can consider him a prospect, but he's like I think he's in his 30s, like you said.
32. But as far as fight years goes, yeah, like Gerald's like 50 and Petroski is closer to 32. So I'll give you that. Yeah, man. 3-8 and he can't stand Petroski. Betting with my heart on this one. GM3 gets it done here. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Like, how many more upsets and like year do you think GM3 has in him? You think he still has like another run, or you think it's kind of like the end, you know?
I think he's got a while to go at middleweight because there's just going to be all these guys off the contender series that come in and test him, and you know, half will beat him, half will fail. You know what I mean? So I think he could be here for a while. Let's see. And he's making good money now too. He's been in the league for a while. They're paying him well, and he's usually live to fight quarterly. So I think he's in a good spot to keep on making some more money. He just had a kid like a year ago, so I'm sure he's liking the extra change. So
yeah,
man. Let's see. What's better, GM3 round 3 or Billy Q round 3? Man, I think Billy Q round 3 because that guy's just a savage with his output, man. He never slows down. Like, that guy is insane. Yeah. Gerald, you have to kind of make a mistake, whereas Billy Q can just melt you. So I like that Billy Q round 3, but definitely for sure. Yeah. What do you think about that, Guru?
He has a lot of – Billy Q has, like, most of his wins in the UFC are third-round finishes.
Right.
Yeah, that guy, he's like always loses the first round too. I guess they are similar. Like it's like both of them, it's like they're not the most athletic, so they kind of lose the first round and then they'll win at the end, you know.
Oh man, you got Comedor in here saying you've got a pretty face. He uses your videos to make his bets. So I think he asked me something juicy earlier. If I had to choose one fighter, man or woman, to apply a triangle choke, get Braxton Smith in here for sure. Bring him back.
You don't want to go with Parker Porter?
Nah, dude. Yeah, we Braxton Smith. Go big or go home. All right, we can move right along to. We are at the bantamweight tournament championship for the Ultimate Fighter. Cody Gibson takes on Brad Katona. This was the most previously announced bout from a couple days ago in the episode of the Ultimate Fighter. We got Cody Gibson, 19-8, taking on Brad Katona, 12-2. Both guys, like we mentioned at the top, have been in the UFC before. Not having the most success, but they did have their moments in the UFC. Cody Gibson, more of like a big for the weight class, rangy distance striker, whereas Brad Katona, I think, is a little bit more well-rounded. Karate, wide stance striker, got some good wrestling in his background and some BJJ skills as well. You know, I mean, Brad Katona, like, he's not the most exciting fighter. Neither is Cody Gibson for that matter, but I don't know. This matchup seems very, very close to me, and I thought the money line might be a little bit higher in the favor of Brad Katona. I just think he's got more ways to win this fight. But I think it goes over no matter who wins this fight. We got -160 Katona, Cody Gibson at +140. I'm going to go with Brad Katona in this one just because I think he does stand his ground as far as not getting backed up. He counters pretty well, and he's got the ability to just drive those takedown attempts into the cage, work some dirty boxing. I think it's kind of like a 15-minute fight in that arena. But Cody Gibson could stick on the outside and move and strike his way to an underdog spot here. I'm not really too confident in a winner of this fight, but I will take Brad Katona by decision. Do you have a better read on this one, and what did you think about their performances in the house?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Gibson, one main thing that you have to talk about him with is that he did have that knee injury where he blew out his knee on the show. So I don't know. Do you know exactly how long ago they fought? Like, do you know? I don't really know. I think I'm not sure, but hopefully it's been like a decent amount of time where he got that dealt with at least. I think he like tore his MCL, and then
I'm not sure when it was filmed, but I was with my guy Blood Money and Johnny K at Bellator. That had to be like in June at this point. We saw Mando Gutierrez at the fights, and we talked to him a bit, and it sounded like it was a while since even he fought on the show. I know he was eliminated right, but so it's been some months, maybe spring.
Yeah. Yeah, Gibson looked good. I mean, the guy got that flying knee knockout in the first fight, and then the second one he finished the guy on the ground in like the first round. So he kind of just dominated both guys. But like we were talking about earlier, I don't really think they were on Katona's level. They were kind of just like these lower level regional scene guys. And Cody Gibson, like, he's been in the game for a long time. Like, he was in I think him and Aljamain debuted against each other in the UFC. So that was like 2013 or something. And he was like on the Tachi Palace shows and all that. So he's like a OG guy. And then Brad Katona, I thought he was going to have more success in the UFC than he did his first time. I kind of was surprised that, he lost and got cut so early. But I feel like Katona, just style-wise, is probably going to win here. Just Gibson, he has good striking on the outside, like you said, and he actually has good wrestling, like defensive wrestling, but he's so big for the weight. He's like one of the biggest bantamweights, and you'll see him get tired, man, in that second and third round. And I feel like Katona is just probably going to do what you said. He's going to push him against the fence and make it kind of a boring fight and win that way. These guys have beef, too. Like, did you see, like, the last episode of the show where Cody Gibson was basically like saying he's like get a knock him the fuck out, he hates him and all that. So it's like
I simply watched the fights for the purposes of betting this fight card. I didn't watch that.
Yeah, so that's like the one, like, there wasn't that many like beefs on the show, but like I guess like Cody Gibson and Katona were one of them. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like Katona is gonna just make it that boring like cage wrestling type of style and get the win. So, but yeah, I'm not betting this fight or anything, and I feel like Gibson, honestly, is like the better all-around fighter. I just think he's going to get stalled out, kind of.
Yeah, it's not the most exciting one. It is confusing, right? Brad Katona, he's 31, slightly younger guy. Cody Gibson, like you said, been around for a long time. Made his debut in the UFC 9 years ago. He's 35 years old now, so the next fight on the Ultimate Fighter tournament that we're going to talk about isn't, much younger fighters either. So it's just it's just a really weird season to break down. Like, especially these days when you got these Contender Series guys coming in at like 21 years old, they already have championships in other leagues. They've already been proven. And then you got these guys who it's like, oh, I can see Dana just turning red in the face. It's like, God damn it, Brad Katona again. He's already won the Ultimate Fighter. He's got a chance of winning it one more time.
These were they had that dude Peyton Talbot on Contender, right, for 135. Like, why wouldn't you bring him as like a prospect on Tough? Mm-hmm. Like, that'd be that's a legit prospect. It's not like these guys like Rico DeShula was like 35 years old and they had him on the prospect side.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's like they're gonna be. Do you remember a few years ago when Juan Espino won the Ultimate Fighter for heavyweights? He fought like twice and then left. It like retired.
Yeah, he got fucked though. Yeah, remember that fight with Romanov where it's like he barely kneed him in the nuts, and then Romanov like got the win by DQ, and I don't think he fought again after that. He basically just said like, "Screw that, maybe."
Yeah, I think Juan Espino had some botched hand surgery and then retired or something like that. So, but he won the Ultimate Fighter. You got to remember. So there have been some older guys that have won it and then just went on to just never fight and use their contract. So I don't know. So we're both on the Brad Katona side. Not even just the Ultimate Fighter fights, but the fact that he was in Brave CF for a while, won the championship there. I just like his outside the UFC experience a bit more, and his game plan seems to work. So give him his next Ultimate Fighter championship trophy, and we'll call it a day. But I think we're both passing on the bet for this one. Let's see here. Yeah, we got pretty much the same, and a lot of passes in the chats here. So we can move on to the next one, see if we have a bet on this fight. We got Kurt Holobaugh taking on Austin Hubbard. And Austin Hubbard, I almost forgot that this guy was even cut from the UFC. It's been pretty recent. He's like the most recent guy of the Ultimate Fighter crew to actually fight in the UFC. This guy was in the UFC back in 2021, I think, before they cut him after fighting Vince Pichel to a loss. So kind of like the other guys we just talked about. I mean, these guys were just like stepping stones for better competition in the UFC. Like Austin Hubbard, he's pretty much just a generalist as far as the skill set goes. He can wrestle a bit. He can strike a bit. Not really outstanding in any one skill to win a judge's scorecard convincingly, in my opinion. But he did lose to Davi Hamos, a jiu-jitsu specialist, Joe Selecki, jiu-jitsu specialist, Mark Madsen and Vince Pichel, who are both really effective wrestlers in the UFC. So he kind of loses to some stiff competition that all have sort of like the same strategy to win. But of course, his wins aren't that much better, right? Kyle Propolek, Max Ropskopf in that infamous fight where Ropskopf quit on the stool, and Dakota Bush. So not the most convincing wins either. But like I said, he's pretty durable. He's probably got the most I would say the most impressive attribute is the guy's cardio. Like he can kind of wear himself into a fight and keep going at the same pace compared to his opponents who fold. But Kurt Holobaugh, kind of the same thing. He works through fatigue. Very aggressive striker, probably more power in this fight, but he is a bit older at, I think, 36 years old at this point. So, I mean, if he wins the Ultimate Fighter, this is going to be like another one of those spots where how many fights does this guy even have left compared to a 31-year-old Austin Hubbard? But I got to go with Holobaugh here. The guy's the underdog. He's at a plus 150 where I got him at for one unit, minus 175 for Austin Hubbard. It just comes down to, I think this should be an even fight, like maybe like minus 115 apiece. And I see Holobaugh just having more impact in the fight, probably winning rounds 1 and rounds 2. And then if he wants to just coast in round 3, so be it. But either way, I think this goes over just like the last Ultimate Fighter finale. So do you see this kind of similar? Or do you think Austin Hubbard can use the wrestling?
No, yeah, actually, I'm going with Kurt Holobaugh too. And I was telling you before we started the show, like Kurt Holobaugh, I'm actually like, I've been a fan of his for when he had his second stint in the UFC. He actually is like an old school guy too. Like we were just talking about Cody Gibson. He was part of the Strikeforce acquisition of UFC. That's when he had one fight after I think Strikeforce got bought by UFC. He fought one time, he lost, and then got cut and came back and had that. They gave him some beast, man, in that when he returned, like, I don't know who he pissed off, but fuck, like they gave him like Barcelos, Shane Burgos, and Thiago Moises. All those guys are like top 15 guys, especially when he fought him. And I thought, he did well in that second run. Like he knocked down Burgos, and then he ended up getting submitted quick after that. But he was up 2-0 on Barcelos, got knocked out. And he's one of these guys where he's 0-4 in the UFC, and he's 36. So it's like, you're never going to get another chance to win in the UFC or make some money, man. So you got to win this fight now and, make some money if you're ever going to do it. But, yeah, it's kind of weird, too, how he even got on the show. Like, at least, like you're saying, Hubbard, he just fought in the UFC in 2021, and he went and fought on the regional scene, too, after a few times after he got cut. Whereas Kurt Holobaugh, I listened to an interview where he was talking about it. Like, he said he kind of, like, semi-retired, and he hadn't fought for, like, almost 2 years. And then his manager just called him out of nowhere and told him, like, hey, UFC, we got this Ultimate Fighter chance. And at first he said he didn't even want to do it. Like he was saying, he said to tell him no. And then I guess something told him to change his mind. He made the decision. And you could see, like, his first fight when he fought that Lee Hammond guy, the Conor McGregor's boy, his wrestling looked bad in that fight. Like, it seemed like maybe he was rusty, like, because he didn't fight for so long. But that fight with Jason Knight, that was a good fight. Like, he just ran through him, man. That was pretty impressive. Like, he was throwing some heat in his punches too, just walking him down. And I feel like on the feet, the volume and the power is going to be on the Holobaugh side. It's just Hubbard, he does have those knees up the middle. I feel like that's really like his only dangerous weapon that he has. He doesn't have much power besides that. And I feel like Holobaugh is going to be the one going forward. And even if Hubbard takes him down, I don't see him really being able to control him on the ground. I feel like Holobaugh could get back up to his feet. I watched a fight where Austin Hubbard was fighting Julian Lane, and this was like a recent Julian Lane, not like even Julian Lane back in the day isn't a great fighter, but it was like 2022, and Julian Lane was like reversing him in some of the grappling exchanges, and I was like, I mean, I don't know if he didn't take that fight seriously, maybe because of like who it was he was fighting against, but if he has that type of grappling, I don't think he's going to hold down Holobaugh. And I feel like Holobaugh's just going to do more on the feet. I could even see him TKO and Hubbard. But one thing about Hubbard is the guy has a crazy chin. And like you said, he has great cardio. He trains at Elevation Fight Team. Oh, right. So he's going to be hard to knock out, I think. So I'm also going to go with Holobaugh by decision in this one. And feel like he's a decent underdog bet, actually.
Yeah, Jesse Q saying Holobaugh decision is plus 450. That seems like a good bet. Is that really what it is?
Yeah.
That's insane. I mean, I know he's got a lot of finishes on his record. He's finished like 16 out of 19 fights, but Yeah, even just going back to the Ultimate Fighter fights they had last season. I mean, the Austin Hubbard Roosevelt Roberts fight was such a disappointment. Like it didn't leave you feeling like this was the guy that could potentially hold the trophy of the show. Compared to Kurt Holobaugh fighting Jason Knight, who was just a walking punching bag for him in all of 2 rounds that lasted. So, yeah, I think I'll just take Holobaugh to be the more impactful fighter here. It seems like he's got. I mean, both these guys really have nothing to lose in this spot. Like they've both been cut from the UFC before. You said Holobaugh had been retired. I mean, I don't like to really hear that from a principle of, I just don't like betting on guys that are kind of 1 foot out the door. But if this whole thing is just like he's riding on house money at this point, he's like, I didn't even plan to come back. Did he say he was coaching or something, or did he have like another job? What was he doing?
I don't even know. I don't know if he was coaching or what. I can't remember if he said, but I just remember that he was saying like that. Because if you look at his record too, like his last official fight, like pro fight, because they don't count the tough ones, was like in 2021. So yeah, he just like took that time off, and I think he was like, maybe he hadn't officially retired, but he didn't want to fight, and then he got that offer and just accepted it after, just kind of crazy. It's like, I wonder how they just like decided like we're just gonna call this guy out of nowhere, like he's not fighting, but
pull his resume off a stack of papers.
Yeah.
Well, all right, man. Both on the underdog in that one as well. So we're both in the. Do we match up on both of those fights, Katona and Holobaugh, for the tough winners?
Yeah, I think we actually got all the same picks so far. So
no, Meerschaert. I'm taking Meerschaert.
Oh yeah, Meerschaert.
Off on that one. Got it right with my boy. Yeah. All right, we can move on to back to some action here. Gregory Rodrigues taking on Dennis Tiuliulin at middleweight. Gregory Rodrigues, really good fighter, man, but obviously we're seeing his durability is starting to crack a bit here and there. I thought maybe that Jordan Williams fight on the Contender Series years ago was just a fluke, but it seems like that's been a reoccurring theme. He got knocked out back in January in Brazil against Bruno Ferreira, who was a newcomer at the time, undefeated, rather untested, kind of smaller for the weight class than Rodrigues. And Rodrigues was having success, took him down a little bit, tripped him up, was outstriking him, pressuring him backwards, and decided to stand right in front of that big rear cross of Bruno Ferreira and get knocked out cold. And, man, I lost big on that. I laid the chalk on RoboCop, too. I was so confident in him. But other than that, he's been very successful in the UFC, only really losing to Armen Petrosian, which was a call that could have easily gone his way on the scorecards that night. So taking on Dennis Tiuliulin, who's more of just a straight-up striker, mostly like a boxer with the hands. Not one of these Russians that's going to go out there and wrestle you. In fact, that's really his kryptonite, is getting out-grappled. So I think a lot of people are trying to ride the train of RoboCop by submission, which is around like plus 200, plus 220. And I think this will be the spot to do it. But is there a chance that Rodrigues just goes out there and stands and bangs? Because I think he could win that way too. What do you think about this fight, man? Any faith in Dennis Tiuliulin this week?
Nah, not really. I mean, like you said, though, it's like if RoboCop wants to make this fight really easy, he just goes out there and takes him down and submits him. Because, he is a jiu-jitsu world champion from what I know. I mean, even though he never uses it in his fights. Right. And Tiuliulin, he looks lost on the ground. Like, I feel like RoboCop would have a gigantic advantage there. But like you said, majority of his fights, like it's like he just decides to stand in the pocket and like make it a 50-50 fight. I don't like even if you look at some of his wins in the UFC, it's like those like Chi Njokuani where it's like he was getting destroyed and then he comes back and finishes up. Jung Young Park like almost knocks him out and then he comes back and finishes him. So it's like he could make the fight really easy or he could make it, a scary fight because if he just stands in the pocket, Tiuliulin, he does have decent hands. So, I mean, maybe Tiuliulin first round KO if it's like a crazy price is live. But I think if Rodrigues wants to win this fight, he could win it. Probably, like you said, standing and banging, I still would favor him, even though it's a lot more kind of scary. And then if he wants to make it easy, he could just take him down and submit him. So it's hard to pick against RoboCop. It's just we've seen him get hurt in a lot of fights now. He just got knocked out again. He's been knocked out before. So that's always a worry, but yeah, I feel like RoboCop is the better fighter everywhere.
Absolutely, man. You've got to go with Jack Obama here. I don't think I'm going to have any action on this fight. I'm lying. I do have I'm just not picking a side for once. Usually I bet Rodrigues all day, but I lost big on him last time. Dude, I bet on him on the Jordan Williams fight for the first time, thinking he would destroy Jordan Williams, and I lost money there. followed my money with him to the LFA and won it back, and it's been pretty good ever since. But man, that Bruno Fajedo fight sucked. But I'm playing the under 1.5 here on Bovada. It was minus 175, so just a 1-unit stab on that one here. I think it is going to be RoboCop early, but if he wants to go out there and slip up again and let his chin get cracked, that could catch the under as well. But yeah, RoboCop is one of my favorite current fighters. Like, I don't have many favorites these days. They've all long since retired and died on a 10-fight losing streak. But Rodrigues is one of my guys. He's just such a fun character. That finishing sequence against Julian Marquez is just one of the best like modern day beatdowns of all time.
Yeah, he's a beast. Like, it's like you watch his fights, it's like always killer be killed style, and he's just, man, like he usually wins too. Like you said, it's usually he gets these brutal finishes. So I feel like he's going to get back to that this weekend, hopefully.
Any interest in playing the submission props on this guy, or is there not enough meat on the bone? We're looking at, like I said, the plus 200 for RoboCop by sub or so. I'm seeing on a lot of books, but the round, if you played round 1, round 2, and just hoped it was in round 2, I think that's around like plus 1100.
Oh, really? By sub?
Yeah, it's like sub 2 for RoboCop. I think sub 1 is probably like plus 300 or something short. Let me look it up right now.
Yeah, I don't think that would be worth it.
If sub one is plus 300, sub 2 is plus 1100. So
yeah,
you just
round 2 1100 sounds pretty. I might even put a bet on that. I didn't really even look at that.
That's on DraftKings right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's like he could submit him, I think, like with ease. It's just if he's gonna do it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be better because if you did the same game parlay of betting Rodrigues, submission before round 3 starts, I think it'd be like plus 550 to plus 600. But if you were just gamble on that round 2 and just hope it lands on that side of the time, then I think that might be better. But yeah, we're both on the same side there. I really don't have much faith, though. I know I'm talking a bunch of shit about the submission. I don't have faith that this guy's going to go do that. I think he's going to stand and bang and probably win that way. But hey.
So you see another like first round KO type fight?
I think so.
Yeah, sometimes fighters they get stuck in like that. They're only going to do one style, even if they have like an ability to win easily another way. But
somebody linked me an interview with RoboCop saying he is going to fix that, and he's been falling in love with his power too much, and now he's going to grapple. Like, he's explicitly said that, but you can't buy what these people are going to say. Once they get in the ring, it's your IQ is cut in half, so.
And it's now that I'm thinking about it, it's like a pay-per-view card, so it's going to be like crazy energy too. So
yeah, dude, jacked Brazilian Obama. He's a man of the people. He's not gonna make it a boring, crotch sniffing fight. He's gonna stand and bang, and hopefully it just ends under 1.5. That's all the stake I have in there. So we can move along. We're already at the top of the prelims here. Another middleweight bout between Brad Tavares and the return of the former middleweight champion Chris Weidman. Didn't think I would be seeing this guy back in the UFC, but Weidman is returning after the 2-year-long layoff, that vicious leg break where Uriah Hall won the fight by TKO without landing a single strike. It was truly a glorious moment for him, but a horrific event for Chris Weidman, who was not looking too good before that even. He'd even switched weight classes, tried to challenge Dominic Reyes, got knocked out. And now at this point, Chris Weidman has been knocked out, I think, 6 times out of all that's all 6 of his losses, right? Yeah, six losses by knockout, 0 by submission. Very good wrestler for Chris Weidman, one of the best single legs in the game. A guy who, of course, a legendary finish of Henderson the Spider Silva in 2013. And then, Silva had that awkward leg break as well in the rematch. So, yeah, those were the days for Chris Weidman. But after that, man, knocked out by Rockhold, knocked out by Yoel Romero, knocked out by Gerard Mousasi. If you remember that awkward finish. Do you remember that fight back in the day when I think it was like he was a semi-grounded opponent and he got hit by the knee? I think he tried to pull like an old school Aljo move and say he was trying to get like a point deduction, and the ref just TKO'd him for a loss instead.
Yeah,
so,
it was funny because he was like acting like he was done, and then when the ref called it, he was like 100% again, like arguing, going crazy. It was funny.
So, I mean, there was a while where this guy just could not buy a win in the UFC, and now he's coming back. But it seems like a matchup where it would be one that he could win, right? If he comes in here, just puts the singlet on, goes in there against the kickboxer and Brad Tavares and just out-control times him, that could be a path to victory. It's just, can he avoid getting chinned? I know Brad Tavares isn't finish anybody, but if there's a guy that Brad Tavares could finish for once, it would be Chris Weidman after a 2-year-long layoff at 39 years old. So, man, just from it's like my brain and my common sense are going in two different directions. I got to pick Brad Tavares to win here. He's the guy who's been still active, still closer to his prime here, but Chris Weidman could easily, like if you get a Chris Weidman decision prop, I think that would be good if it was, anything above plus 250, right? This guy, he's 39 years old, but he had that grappling match recently. I guess he's still active. His leg still does work. So he could come in here and wrestle. I know the giant stat for Brad Tavares is his takedown defense is always one of the best. Throughout his entire 10-year plus career, it's always been up there as one of the record setters in the UFC. But he's not fighting a lot of really good wrestlers either. So I think Chris Weidman could take him down. It's just, can he avoid the in-betweens getting, punched in the face? Because even Dominic Reyes got taken down right away, and a big straight left down the pipe sent Chris Weidman to sleep. So, yeah, I'm gonna go Brad Tavares. But in my mind, I think this is dog or pass. So, how do you see this fight playing out, and what do you think about Weidman's return here?
Yeah, I've been trying to get someone to come with me, man. I'm walking a lonely road on this one because I'm going with Weidman to win.
Oh, no.
I bet on him to win by decision. So it was plus 450 what I bet on.
Jesus.
And then, I'm just thinking about it. It's like Brad Tavares, you think he's going to knock out – these guys that knock out Weidman are, high-level power guys, with big power. Brad Tavares, he has the one TKO over Jocko, where that fight was really it was like a punches TKO, but it started because of the leg kick. So I guess that's my main concern with Weidman is Tavares' leg kicks. But I feel like he could let Tavares punch him right on the chin and he wouldn't knock him out. I really don't think he would. Maybe he would, but
how confident are you in testing that theory?
50-50, I don't know. But it's Brad Tavares, he's had 30 fights in the UFC and he has 2 knockout wins. And one of them was in 2011 against Phil Baroni. So he's knocked out Baroni and Chris Jotko in 30 fights. I
remember that fight with Phil Baroni too. That was a New Year's Day card. That was a long time ago.
That was 2011, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
that was New Year's Day. I remember watching that card on New Year's.
He was in the UFC before Weidman too. Brad Tavares and Weidman, they're both freaking OGs. They've been I think Tavares been in the UFC since 2010, so it's not like he's a spring chicken. I feel like it's if you're going to give anyone to Weidman to beat off this layoff, it has to be Brad Tavares, right? The guy's a harmless striker to me. It's he's technical, but he's not super powerful. And then, like you said, he does have great takedown defense, but he hasn't faced really any wrestlers whatsoever. The Yoel Romero did take him down 7 times, which that was a long time ago, but that's probably the only elite wrestler that he's ever fought. And Omari took him down a couple of times, but we saw Weidman easily outgrapple Omari. So it's he's on a different level than Omari in the grappling, at least if he comes back a semblance of his former self, And I like the fact it's he had to have gone through a lot of shit. He had a lot of setbacks coming into this fight with his injuries and all that. So it's going to be a personal fight for him, man. I feel like he's really going to be pushing it. I like the fact that it's on the up north, where it's near New York, and Aljo's in the main event, so it's a kind of nostalgia. It's his whole team there and everything. And I don't know, man. I feel like it's gonna line up good for him. It's like you said, he's never lost a decision. He's only lost by knockout. And Tavares doesn't really. I feel like Weidman can kind of, even if he's ineffective with a lot of takedowns, if he could just hold him against the cage and kind of make it semi-competitive on the feet, I feel like he's the better mover, and he's definitely the bigger guy by a large margin. Then I think he could win. So I did pick Weidman. I bet on him, and we'll see. He could look horrible, who knows? But I feel like against Tavares, it's a great matchup for him to win.
So for this one, are you sprinkling on the money line of Weidman and then adding onto the decision prop, or are you just betting the decision prop?
Yeah, that's what I did. So I bet the money line, and then I bet the decision as well. So okay. I got plus 227. I think it's probably the same. I haven't seen it really change too much.
I always like doing that just in case. You don't want to have such a great read on it, and then you picked it only by decision, and you get none of the reward for it. It's always bad when you miss out that way.
I would be surprised though if Weidman finished him though. I don't really maybe he could submit him, but
Yeah, it's a tall enough order for him to come back in the UFC and make it competitive and win, much less get a stamp on it. But I didn't even think about what you said about him being sort of towards his home gym, his hometown, and with the guys that he trains with. So that's an added untangible there that I didn't even think about. So that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, he could do it. There's just part of my mind is just I just remember seeing Chris Weidman just knocked out so many times and just thinking he was done. I thought he was done before the Uriah Hall fight, so I bet on Uriah Hall, and it was the easiest cash. I know it was a fluke and all, but still. And part of me just doesn't like Chris Weidman. He beat the Bruce Lee of our generation. I was pounding on my chest to everybody that he's going to get dusted in that fight, and he ended up winning. So I never quite liked Chris Weidman. I went to go see my guy Vitor Belfort capture another championship, and Chris Weidman put a halt to that as well. So I've had some personal beefs with Chris Weidman, but hell, I'm glad to see him back in here. I like seeing the old school veterans.
What do you think? You think Weidman would have beat the TRT Vitor? Because he got the other Vitor.
Dude, and he waited like a pussy to get the non-TRT Vitor.
You seem like you think that's a pussy move to not take him when
Dude, it is. No, because I know damn well that Chris Weidman was on shit too. He doesn't look the same as he used to after the 2015 lost. So, and it's always the guys like Chris Weidman was yelling nonstop about how Vitor was on steroids and he's clean, and it's always those guys are the dirtiest ones. So, oh man, yeah, I got some. I guess I do have some personal beefs. This has been therapeutic talking to you about this, but maybe that's why I'm picking Tavares this week.
No, I mean, I think I'm like I think probably the sane pick is Tavares. So I'm the crazy one in this pick. We'll see, though. I mean, I just feel like it's like, if it was like even money line or something, maybe I would pick Tavares. But with the odds, I don't know. I'm just going to roll with Weidman, see what happens.
It's a very good stylistic matchup. I don't disagree, but we're on opposite sides of this one, but I got no money on it. I'll definitely root for your bet on that one. What is up, Mushroom MMA in the house? And what is up, Patrick? Everybody go check out my guy, Mushroom MMA, on Twitter and on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube. This guy is one of the most entertaining guys in the game, super sharp gambler as well, and he posts all of his bets for free on Twitter and YouTube. So check out my man. I can't wait to do another show with him. We'll have to get him back on here soon. And maybe even do like a live watch along with my guy Mushroom. That was a lot of fun earlier this year. So we can move right along. I think we're now on the pay-per-view card. We have Marlon Chito Vera taking on Pedro Munhoz at bantamweight. This is one of these short notice replacement bouts from a few weeks back, but still a competitive fight. And almost like Weidman and Tavares, like Vera and Munhoz kind of match up in an interesting way as well, with both guys being super durable. And Pedro Munhoz being measurably older than Marlon Chito Vera at 36 years old. He's been around for a long time. High output striker. The signature of Pedro Munhoz is those calf kicks, the strong guillotine. Not really. Either of these guys are not big wrestlers. They're mostly going to strike it out here, but it's the bigger moments for Marlon Vera versus the output of Pedro Munhoz, which is usually what we talk about when we talk about a Marlon Chito Vera fight, right? It's his big moments. It's his maybe his size advantage, his aggression, just a slow plodding pace forward, trying to cut off the cage, trap people and catch them with flying knees or high kicks as they evade. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting matchup for sure. The overs, I'm sure, are heavily favored in this match. Let me look it up right now because neither guy's ever been finished by submission or knockout in their careers, and they fought some killers. So we're looking at the over 2.5 on BetOnline is minus 325 for this fight. So, yeah, I mean, at that point, I would look towards the under, to be honest, because I think one of these guys could put the other out. Like, Munhoz with the leg kicks, but more likely Marlon Vera with something nasty, like a front kick up the middle or a flying knee or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, Pedro Munhoz, he's gotten some respect in the money line a little bit just because he's coming off a fight over a young up-and-comer in Chris Gutierrez pretty convincingly last time out. But before that, he was kind of struggling to get wins himself, whereas Marlon Vera, he's just slipped up once against Corey Sandhagen, but other than that, he's been looking pretty good. Largely in 5-round bouts, though. So how do you think that the 3-round nature of this fight affects it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes Pedro way more live to get the win. I mean, if you look at Chito's last 3 fights, if they were all 3-round fights, he would have lost all 3. So
right.
That's the thing with Chito. It's like we almost know for a fact that Pedro's going to win the first round. So it's like he's probably going to win the first round, like probably 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 times, just with Chito's style that we've seen. Unless maybe the Sandhagen fight finally, like kickstarts him to make a change. But it's like we've seen him been doing this for years, man. Like I remember like someone was saying now that he's in a 3-round fight, he's gonna go hard. But I he was losing like first rounds to like Nolan Hernandez and Guido Canetti. Like he would still lose the first rounds to those guys, like even super low level guys. So I don't know what it is. I think it's just like what he likes to do in there. But Pedro's at least going to be active and coming forward and throwing strikes. And the main thing, like why I'm just going to pick Pedro as the pick is just because of the durability factor. I mean, this guy has an incredible chin, man. Like he's never been dropped that I know of. He takes like shots right on the, like him and Marlon are probably two of the most durable bantamweights of all time. So I just feel like Pedro's probably going to bank that first round, and then he only has to win one of the next two to win the fight, or you got to rely on Marlon to be the first guy to knock out Pedro, because I don't think he's going to submit him. I think grappling Pedro has pretty significant advantage. It's just neither guy really wrestles. So I don't know. I see it like a 50-50 type fight, honestly. I feel like if Marlon cracks his chin, I mean, congrats. But I really don't see that happening, man. I feel like Pedro has like an iron chin. So I'm just going to pick Munhoz to win like 29-28. But I've been bad picking Cheeto fights, man. Like I pick against him like almost every time. So it's like, I don't know. You can't really take my picks on this fight. I feel like other people have better reads.
When you talk about the decision too, we're in agreement that this is probably going to go to the scorecards. The odds and the odds makers agree with that as well. But if you look at the decision props for each guy, like Pedro Munhoz, 7-7 in decisions, Marlon Vera 4-8-1 in decisions. So they're not really too consistent in their results either. I mean, Pedro going slightly better, but I'd argue that Vera's had some of the tougher fights so far. But yeah, largely a finisher. I will say if he were to fix that mistake in his game and start just a little bit faster, land that big moment a little bit earlier, I think he could get it done here. He's not fighting the most confusing opponent, because before we talked about Corey Sandhagen, he's got that weird figure 8 style of movement similar to Dominic Cruz, who he fought before that. I mean, those guys are very hard to time early. And then other than that, who was he fighting? Frankie Edgar's trying to take him down and grab his legs every 2 seconds, got some top control time. So this might be an opponent that's not trying to take him down, not going to be moving all over the place and hard to find. He could probably win a round one, easier than any other fight so far. Will he do that? Probably not. But I think that's just something to think about. He might actually come out here and just land one of those big moments early and get it done. I saw my guy Johnny K. Picks post a bet that he had on the points handicap for Pedro Munhoz in this spot, which I like. The plus 3.5 points just has to score, 29-28 on the scorecards, even in a losing effort. And that was around -170 to -200. So that might be a spot as well. Betting Chito Vera after round 1 live, that's obviously always an angle as well. But yeah, just age-wise, size-wise, just more dangerous. I'm going to pick the other side here. I'm going to pick Marlon Chito Vera to get it done. But I think it is dog or pass. I think you've got a good bet if you're on Munhoz by decision. Obviously, it's just written, in the stats that we brought up. I mean, it's really not a good effort for Chito Vera to win by decision. He's doing that, 4 compared to 8 times. So, yeah, I don't know. I just think there might be a big moment that will finally – earn some respect on Pedro Munhoz, get him to back up a little bit more. And I think we see Vera start winning as this fight goes on more convincingly, but I'm not enough to lay the chalk on him though. Like the money line is kind of odd, right? I mean, why does Marlon Chito Vera get so much respect all the time in the lines? Like he's consistently -210 over Munhoz, plus 180 for Munhoz. Like, what is it about him that always garners that? Is it just the finishing equity he has? Like, why is he always
I feel like it's just that. Yeah, it's like the finishing, and then he does like I would say he's like one of the 5 like biggest names at bantamweight too. Like he's like one of the biggest names for sure. So maybe that also factors into it. But yeah, I feel like it's like now he has always been fighting these older guys too. It's like he's getting lucky with that, right? Like he fought like you said, Frankie Cruz, and now he's fighting Pedro. So
yeah,
I guess he's getting good matchups when you're talking about in that sense too.
Yeah, Lou, just echoing what I said. If you like Vera, just live bet him, just like you mentioned. We got Jenna Marie in the house. Say, what's up, Patrick? 2 more sleeps. Good to see you, Jenna Marie. Hope you're sipping on something nice as you watch the stream, getting ready, getting all your DraftKings lineups ready. Good to see you. Yeah, let's see here. Lupe is saying, yeah, I mean, Johnny K picks, he's got some really good bets, but then he parlays everything together, and then it ends up being just a super risky endeavor. But, dude, Johnny K is my boy. He's the parlay king. You already know he's going to cash all those bets. He's just going to lose the shoey bets to me. Those are the bets he loses. But we can move along. We're on opposite sides of that one, but sort of not really. Like, I agree with all your points. I agree with your bet, but I'm just going to lay off this one. And I think Vera does start this card off with the win. But we move on to a fight here that's short notice. Mario Bautista taking on Damon Blackshear at bantamweight. And Mario Bautista supposed to fight Cody Garbrandt. Would have been a fun fight to bet, but Damon Blackshear fills in for Garbrandt on 7 days' notice. I just laid the chalk on Damon Blackshear successfully. Won a unit last week when he got the third twister submission ever against Jose Johnson. And now he returns, makes this big weight cut again. He is a bigger bantamweight at 5'10". 7 days notice. So that could be good or bad, right? Like, he's primed, obviously, didn't take much damage in that last fight, but it's still going to be a vicious effort to make the weight again on a few days notice. But dude, I'm considering, chiseling off 0.5 units of that unit I won and putting it on the underdog in Blackshear here. Before the show, I saw that he's all the way up to plus 195 on the money line. Mario Bautista minus 230. I gotta say, Guru, like Blackshear, he's got really, really good grappling skills, good BJJ on the mat, decent wrestling, offensive and defensive. Striking isn't bad. His cardio is at least, serviceable, unless he has got to grapple, for 10 minutes on end. Then he does slow down, like we saw against Yusuf Salal. But, dude, Mario Bautista's been fighting kind of a bunch of cans for the most part, like Guido Canetti, Jay Perrin. He's going in here against, guys like, Benito that have been off for years. And a lot of his success is early, and a lot of his success is getting the fight to the mat and working the grappling game. I think both things are going to be tough against Blackshear, who's never been finished before and does have good grappling. So it makes sense to me that, as a plus almost 200 underdog, might be worth a spot here. But 7 days notice, how much does that factor against picking Blackshear?
Yeah, that's like the main thing. Like, I actually agree. I feel like Blackshear is the better fighter. Like, if you're just looking at it from a skill perspective, like on the feet, I feel like Blackshear has faster hands, better boxing. The thing about Mario is really big for the weight, and he's explosive, right? So you'll see him like come in with these flying knees or all these like dangerous attacks, where that's why he's able to get a lot of early finishes along with his wrestling. But I feel like long term on the feet, Blackshear is better, and then Blackshear definitely is the better grappler. Like, you'll see Mario Bautista make mistakes on the ground even now, and like he's been fighting this low level competition, but I don't see him like holding down Blackshear and controlling him. Like, we saw Jay Perrin get up every time Bautista took him down like relatively quickly, and I don't think he's like on the same level as Blackshear in the grappling. And Perrin even took him down like 1 or 2 times. He took Bautista down. So I feel like Blackshear could mix it up really well. Like we saw in the Meerschaert fight, he was really competitive in that fight. And I feel like he's going to make history, man. I mean, like he was the third person ever to have a twister in the UFC. And now he's the first man to fight 2 times in 7 days. That's pretty cool. Like first 5 fights, you're already like one of people that done like something real rare. I think Lupe Godinez did it too, but he's the first male fighter. But yeah, I feel like Blackshear, it's like at the line, I think you have to pick him. Like Bautista, he's on a run right now, like you said, but Blackshear's been fighting much higher level competition, and I feel like skills wise, he can compete really well. And he's a big bantamweight too, so it takes away a lot of Bautista's strengths, I feel like.
Yeah, we're looking at the last 3 in a row, all round 1 stoppages. Brian Kelleher by rear naked choke, Benito Lopez, that triangle armbar in one round, and Guido Canetti round 1 rear naked choke. So, yeah, I mean, against the guy who's never been finished before, that's usually not a good recipe for success. But are you saying if this gets extended with the grappling, do you think it will extend past that? Like, what do you think the finishing upside for Blackshear would be?
Yeah, I feel like it's probably going to be like for Blackshear, I think he could win by a sub, but I haven't really seen, like, that's the thing. I haven't seen Trevin or Bautista like on his back against a good grappler, like to see how he could really react to that. But if he has decent enough defensive grappling, I could see it being a decision too. But I feel like Blackshear, with like, he has legit black belt, man. Like, we just see him hit it, even though the guy was low level. I mean, he just hit a twister 5 days ago, so I mean, man, I think if you're going to give him like a grappling based fighter that he probably has better striking, then the only issue is just the cardio with the 2 weight cuts in 7 days. Like if he slows down like he did against Zalal, then maybe Bautista could get a late finish, or maybe Bautista could kind of take over. But I feel like Blackshear is the better fighter.
That's the fight that's always in the back of my mind, is that short notice debut last August against Yusuf Zalal, where it was reversal after reversal for the first 10 minutes of the fight, and then he was just totally out of his element, gassed out on the feet, and almost got TKO'd. Like that spot, like he's never been finished technically, but if that would have been 10 seconds longer, the guy's getting TKO'd by Yusuf Zalal in round 3.
That fight, so. I know he only had 3 days notice for that fight though. So like this one, at least like it's 7 days notice, but he still is going to be in shape, like more than like coming off the couch because he just fought. So, but yeah.
Got my guy Brandon Olson is on Mario Bautista. Hey, don't mind, man. If you've got a strong lean on a fight and you got a fighter that's on 7 days, probably, realistically less than that, right? Like he probably found out after he finished fighting. It's probably like 6 days notice, really. If you're on that side of it, I don't mind it at all. But where the money line is at, before the lines dropped, I told myself, I'm like, dude, I'll bet Blackshear if it's plus 200 or more, and it's right around there right now, plus 185. I might have to pull the trigger on that, but it would only be for like half of a unit on Blackshear just to get it done. Stylistically, it makes sense on paper to me, man. But doesn't Bautista train with Sean O'Malley?
Yeah, they both train at MMA Lab. So. At
the lab, yeah. So. Yeah, who knows how that affects it. He's probably got some good atmosphere going into this pay-per-view, primed and ready to go. But he probably planned on flying kneeing Cody Garbrandt in like 10 seconds.
Yeah, so. That's such a different matchup than Cody. Like it's like he was getting like a high ranked guy with a big name that he was probably gonna like run through, and now he's facing like some unranked fighter that's like better than the guy he was gonna fight before, and a totally different style. Like Cody's just like a pure boxer.
This is a good point that Jesse Q's making, like him getting on the scales, like the money, where's the money trending right now? Like obviously I think the money line's going up a little bit, like more plus money on Blackshear as the week goes on. Do you think that trend probably continues? We could probably wait until we see Damon on the scales before we place that bet maybe.
Yeah, if he misses weight, then that could be like a red flag though. But like it's like I am surprised he accepted that fight to be at 35 again, because I think at first they were saying it was going to be at like 140 or something, but I guess he must feel confident that he can make the weight,
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, maybe I'll wait until I'll plan on putting a half a unit on Blackshear. I think we've talked ourselves onto it. I'm glad you agree with me and didn't talk me off of it, but I might wait to actually place that bet until we see the weigh-ins. But yeah, another underdog we're on the same side of here, man. Dude, if I place that bet, I'm going to be on 4 underdogs with money on it. This is the most ridiculous card I've ever bet in my life.
Well, pay-per-view cards, man. Pay-per-view cards, it's like the underdogs are, in my opinion, on pay-per-view cards better to bet on because they're usually like established guys, like whereas
true.
And they have like past a victory, a lot of them usually. So it's like I think pay-per-views, underdogs are usually a lot more alive to win. But
that's a good point. I do way better on fight night cards profit-wise than I do on pay-per-views historically, looking back, especially this past year. So hopefully this will buck that trend and I'll keep these clean sweeps going. But we can move on to the welterweight division. Ian Machado Garry takes on Neil Magny in yet another short notice mix-up. It was supposed to be Ian Garry and Jeff Neal, but he gets a slight bump up here, I think, in Neil Magny, who beat Jeff Neal. So similar matchup as far as the rankings go, but for Garry, this is a guy who's a lot more established, in my opinion, but probably less dangerous altogether. Neil Magny's, one of the best decision winners in the UFC's history, one of the guys with the most experience at welterweight. Ian Garry, the young, undefeated, up-and-coming Irishman who's a sniper of a striker, but very athletic, big for the weight class, similar to Neil Magny, and he's been on quite a run. And I got to say, Guru, like this guy – my opinion of this guy has changed quite a bit in just like a year and a half that he's been in the UFC. Like he went from almost getting knocked out by Jordan Williams and like kind of having that really sloppy tall man's defense to then in his next fight going to decision with Darian Weeks to, the fact that I pulled the trigger on Gabe Green as an underdog to beat him and look like a fool when he just outclassed Gabe Green, scored some takedowns, I think knocked him down in that fight. And then goes on to look more and more impressive as his level of competition increases. So, I mean, I guess I'm not alone in my opinion changing. He's now a minus 505 favorite over Neil Magny, who's the plus 380 underdog. So the undefeated record, the youth factor, more dangerous in more areas of the game, short notice. I mean, that's all baked into this minus 500 line, which is incredibly wide for a guy. Like I said, Neil Magny has so much more experience. He's hard to finish historically unless it's by submission. And the guy's got more hours in the cage at welterweight than anybody. But I think Neil Magny has given us the gift of like regressing slowly. You know what I mean? Like he's not totally dropped off of a cliff, but I bet on him against Phil Rowe, and that was a shaky split decision that was going my way that time. So, yeah, I mean, he's like one of these guys where I think he let me get one more victory on him by a sketchy decision, and now I don't think he's going to win this fight. So, is there any way to play Ian Garry here if you're on that side, or are you going to call a Neil Magny clinch fest decision?
Nah, I mean, the only thing, like you said, most of Neil Magny's losses are by submission. So I saw like he was like plus 600 on Caesars, like because I'm in Vegas, so I was looking at that and like because he's like way the odds on these offshore books, it's like way worse odds for that prop. So I put some money on that, but honestly, I'm not like really like I feel like it's a dog or pass at the line. I think the line is crazy. Like to put minus 500, like if you're gonna parlay that, I mean, like, man, like you got some balls, man, because it's like you look like you're saying, like it's Ian Garry's looking better and better. I agree, but he still has these moments in fights against like lower level guys where it's like he looks human a little bit, right? Like he got dropped by Kenan Song, like he almost got knocked out by Kenan Song, but like it's like we did see Darian Weeks take him down and control him on the ground for a couple minutes. Even Gabe Green held him against the cage. So, like, I think there's a path to victory for Neil. Like, if he can just get that, wrestling game going early. But, all indication, like you said, like, I bet on Neil, too, like, when he fought Max Griffin. And, like, I had, like, the same experience where it was like, man, I thought it was a lot easier. And then it was like 50-50 fight. So it's like you said, I think he's slowly regressing. Like he's not totally out of there, but he's, going down. And I think Ian Garry's probably going to take advantage of that and either beat him like where he batters him for a decision. Like we've seen like Neil take a lot of damage and lose decisions like that before. Or maybe he can head kick him because that's usually how Ian Garry gets the finishes. Like I feel like he has really slick hands and like he cuts angles really well and he'll throw those 1-2s, but he doesn't really have like crazy power in his hands. I don't think almost all his wins by KO are head kicks. So it's like if he lands that head kick, which he's really good with it, then he could maybe get Neil out of there or maybe club and sub him. But yeah, I feel like it's Neil Magny's time to kind of take this loss and let Ian Garry get into the top 10, so it's probably what's going to happen, but I think it's like a dog or pass on the money line. And did you watch the press conference today? Did you see that where Ian Garry was like going hard?
What's up, Zach? No, I did not see. I saw somebody mention this that I saw Fight Talk saying he hopes he loses after the press conference. What happened?
Oh yeah, basically, so like Neil Magny, like he said like, like you'll hear fighters say like when they're the veteran, like I'm gonna like beat him like he's my kid or something. Like it's like basically like saying he's like he's sonning him, right? But Ian Garry like took it like as like a literal thing. Like he was saying like, Neil, you beat your son. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should never talk at this press conference. Like every time Neil would try to talk, like Ian Garry would be like, "No, shut your mouth." Like it was like kind of like cringy, but I don't know.
No, I'll have to watch that after this now. That sounds hilarious. Just because Ian Garry just definitely is just trying to be, of course. I mean, who wouldn't capitalize on being like a Conor McGregor type, But he takes it too far. He is a little bit cringy. I like it. He's got the skills to back it up, man. It's I don't know. Is he like a fan favorite? Do people like him? Like
I don't know. I was looking at his Instagram after the press conference, and literally every comment is like a negative comment, like shitting on him. So I think he probably lost some fans, but I think probably in the UK, like he's probably big over there, but in the US, like I don't think he's like a huge draw yet. Like he was saying like, oh, like I'm the reason why people are going to watch this pay-per-view. Like I think that's pretty delusional, but but I mean, he could maybe like, I think he has the ability to progress to be like a star if he could keep winning, but it's just like, he's trying to talk himself into the position right now,
Absolutely. Actually, one of my buddies brought that up to me the other day, talking about Ian Garry saying he was the star of the card and asking me what I thought about that. I'm like, dude, I don't actually. The last thing I watch is I'll try to watch fighter interviews to like gain information about like how their training is going, injuries and stuff. But the last thing I have on my list to do is watch the press conferences. Like I'm lucky enough to get enough information to bet properly and make content. Like that's the thing I hate about this game more than anything is I don't have time to watch other people's content as much as I used to. And as far as watching like the hype, the build up, the UFC embedded, I just don't have a lot of time in my week to do that anymore. But I do kind of miss that. What is going on? We got Osio in the house saying face reveal. Let's fucking go. Yeah, man. My guy MMA Prediction Guru, man, showing his handsome mug in here.
I showed my face years ago though, but yeah.
Yeah. He was on. You were doing panels on those Friday nights on Odds HQ for sure. People know who you are. The OGs of the game know who you are. But again, thanks for being here. Thanks to all 32 people in the live chat. We can move on to the first of 2 title fights. We got the co-main event. Zhang Weili taking on Amanda Lemos. Women's 115 title, 5 rounds scheduled if we need all of them. And this is a pretty fun fight. I mean, I think this is one of the more underrated fights on the entire card, skill-wise. You've got the dangerous power threat and even guillotine and submission threat from Amanda Lemos, the Brazilian, as she takes on the very athletic Weili Zhang, who neither of these women are the youngest, right? Like we've got Weili Zhang, who's I think 34 at this point, Amanda Lemos 36. But as far as like improvements go, I think Weili Zhang is still making those improvements. You know, you see her getting out-grappled in certain spots. She goes in there and out-grapples Carla Esparza for a submission win in her last fight. You see her still keeping that power and even knocking out somebody like Joanna Jędrzejczyk, whether she was at the end of the road of her career or not. That's still pretty impressive to do against her. So I see a lot of like athletic improvements from her, and I do take her to win this fight. Simply because at women's 115, you can't really always bank on an early finish on the Lemos side. It does happen from time to time. Obviously, we saw Weili Zhang get knocked out in 60-some seconds from Rose Namajunas by a head kick. That could certainly happen, but I got to bank on the fact that this gets better for Weili Zhang the further this fight goes, and it's women's strawweight, so I got to bank on that side. Where the money line is at, we've got Weili Zhang sitting at a clean -330 favorite, +270 for Amanda Lemos. Is there any way to chop down that number if you're on the Zhang side? Do you take her inside the distance? Do you take her late round props? How do we play this one? Or do you find yourself on the side of the Brazilian?
Yeah, I mean, I think the late round props maybe could be profitable, but I'm more kind of just passing on this fight. I think it's parlayable. Like, I do think Zhang's like one of my most confident picks on the card. I don't really do parlays myself. I always give away one on my channel, but I'm not like a big parlay guy. But I do think Zhang, if you're confident like another person, you could parlay her probably. But
I've become way less of a parlayer as I've gotten through this. They just crash too many times for my liking.
Yeah, like I'll usually put like a couple of stupid parlays where it's like I'll put like 10 fighters or something like for like $50, but those are like totally like kind of like irrelevant to like my whole betting strategy. It's
Dude,
kind of
I cashed on 2 of those last week. I cashed on 2 of those last week.
You sent me like you won like off that bet. I was like, damn, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's like basically all that is. It's like a lottery ticket type bet. But yeah, like with this fight, like you're saying, I totally agree with your read. It's like I do think Lemos is one of the most dangerous girls early, like in the whole UFC. Like I think she's like super slick striking. Like her, I feel like her striking early is probably a little bit better than Weili's. Like you see Weili, like she's probably more diverse with her striking, but I think like early on, her ability to close the distance is a little bit not that great. And Lemos could maybe catch her with like a cross or head kick and knock her out. Like we've seen Joanna kind of land a lot on her with the crosses, Rose too in the second fight. The first fight, she obviously head kicked her. But if Lemos doesn't get her out of there early, I mean, her last fight, she showed good cardio against Marina Rodrigues, but that was a straight up like Muay Thai striking fight. So if Weili does what we think she's going to do and she's mixing in the wrestling and the grappling too, I think we'll see Lemos get tired a lot faster than Weili. Like we saw her get taken down by girls, I think a lot lower level than Weili too, like Angela Hill, Michelle Watterson. So I feel like Weili's probably going to get a finish on the ground, like in the 3rd or 4th rounds. And, but I think Lemos, like if you want a better to win in the first round, I wouldn't hate that bet. Like I feel like with the has small odds to win. Like I think it's like 5% implied odds, and I think it's a little bit better than that. But yeah, I feel like Weili's probably going to get this one done, just being the more complete martial artist.
Yeah, as far as the overs and unders go for this fight, we are looking at the over-under set at 3.5 rounds, minus 205 for the under, plus 165 for the over. I mean, that seems a little enticing just because it is a women's strawweight fight, over 3.5 at plus 165. Any interest in that side of things, or would you just not want to risk it, in case Zhang gets that because they have cut it like correctly, right? They've cut it right at that spot where you're like, man, we got to make it halfway through the fourth. Potentially a finish from either girl could come before that point. I don't think I have any interest in betting this fight, but what do you think about those time props?
Yeah, if it was 4.5 at the same price, maybe I could bet like the under. If it was like 4.5, like minus 170 or something, but I don't think I could do 3.5 at those odds because it's like I could definitely see like. If you do the under at 4.5, at least you have a little bit more time like to cash your bet. But if you're doing the over, I mean, I think you're going to be sweating it pretty major,
Yeah, it jumps up to Bovada has the alternate, and so on Bovada the under 4.5 is at minus 310. So at that point, you're like,
oh yeah, that's a big difference. Yeah,
like shit. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't have any betting action in this fight. I am really excited as a fan to watch it, and like I said, I think Zhang just is way more dynamic of. Just a better tool set. She's more, she changes fight to fight a bit more. And I just think it gets better as this goes on for Weili Zhang. I will say, though, like you were talking about with Marina Rodrigues, that is a fight that really impressed me from Lemos because most people have to take down and grind out Marina Rodrigues and take her off of her feet, where Lemos just beat her to the punch and knocked her ass out early round 3. I did not see that coming, and I lost money on that fight. So, yeah, it'll be fun to see this title change hands, but I do think it's going to be Weili Zhang. Who's next for her after this one? Do we have a Yan Xiaonan waiting in the wings?
Well, it's either her or Tatiana, right? One of the two it's going to be. So I feel like Tatiana is going to be Zhang. It's just like when it's going to happen, but I don't know what you think about that.
Oh, absolutely. I think Tatiana is in there too. She's got a dominant style, So what are you going to do?
If I was the UFC, like I would say I would do the China versus China fight first, try to get the money, and then Weili probably will win that one, and then give her a Tatiana and kind of crown Tati. But maybe that's kind of how it would go, unless she decides to like go fight Grasso or something.
Pink Floyd saying I've bet Lemos every fight, but not this time. Zhang under 3.5 at even odds. Say that's not a bad way to play it, man. I think she does have finishing potential. What is going on, James? Good to see you in here. Am I doing a stream with Brady from DFS? I think maybe this weekend, if he calls me up to do the best bet before the fight started on Saturday, I'll be on that. Still got to check in with him on that one. But Mushroom saying, and still, and so is Effie as well. So we're on the same side of the chat. Good to be on the same side of you guys. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, you guys. We're going to break into the main event title fight at bantamweight, but also take a moment to go in the description and check out my guy, MMA Prediction Guru. If you're not subscribed to this man's YouTube channel, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. He gives out winners every week, just really good technical analysis, and check out his Patreon as well. Like I said at the top, man, one of the most consistently profitable guys in the game, third-party tracked, and just a guy who's been killing it for year after year. In fact, how many years have you been gambling on mixed martial arts, dude?
Yeah, on Bet MMA, I've had this will be my 6th year tracked on there, 5th and a half. I kind of started the middle of the year on the first time I started on there. But yeah, man. So I was betting a little bit before on fights, but I didn't really know what I was doing for a while. Where like I said, I would do parlays, kind of stupid stuff. And then actually what happened, I don't even know if you know who this is, but I kind of started doing those YouTube videos just for fun. I wasn't even betting majorly when I first started my YouTube channel, and I got hit up by Kyle Marley, who's he used to work for MMA Oddsbreaker and Nick Kalikas and all them. So then
he jumps in my chat every now and then. He's a cool dude.
Yeah, so I started helping him out. I was writing certain articles for his DraftKings stuff, breakdowns. And that's when I started talking to him and talking to other guys that really knew more about betting, and I kind of started to track and be more serious about it. So, yeah, man. I mean, I'm pretty surprised. It's I wasn't expecting. I was just doing this in school, for fun or whatever, and then I ended up being pretty good, betting MMA. Man, I got made a decent amount of money. I'm not gonna sit here and say it on here, but yeah. So it was, you know, kind of fell into it. It ended up being fun, man. And so, yeah, I always like doing these. It's the first time I'm talking to you too. I feel like this was a good video. It was a fun time. So hopefully we can do more videos. And yeah, man, it's like this community is growing like crazy. Like we were saying before the video started, like we were talking about the odds days back then. Like it was probably like 10 channels doing this. Now it's like so many more. So
right.
Yeah, the space is growing and the community's growing.
The sport has grown bigger than I ever thought the sport would grow. You know, like it was always a weird thing where like growing up as a young kid, like nobody knew what the hell I was talking about or where I was going. You know, a couple times a year going to Vegas to see the fights, people thought it was pro wrestling. So now our small niche community of betting is growing along with the sport. So it's
like when did you start? Like, because you're probably like started way before me. Like when you're like started becoming like a big fan of the sport and all that.
I didn't start betting until around like 2019 or so. Like
I'm saying when you were like just watching it, you know, like cause you said you've been a fan like forever, right?
I went to my first cage fight when I was in kindergarten. My mom was a martial artist and a big fan. And the first UFC I went to was UFC 48 back in 04, I believe it was.
Yeah,
I was in like fifth grade. So yeah, it's been a long time. I've gone out to Vegas and seen the fights. So I've been in your neck of the woods in Vegas for much of my life, just going to see the fights, you know. And there was a lot of times there was just like a one-way ticket. You know, just going to see the fights and then just hopping right back in McCarran Airport and coming back, you know, whether it be on the train or on the plane. Like it would just be sleeping in the McCarran Airport just after the fights. So
it's funny. Like I didn't get into it until way after you because like I was like, so I started doing, my brother started doing jiu-jitsu first and then I started doing it. Okay. And he was like a big Nick Diaz fan. And this was like when he was in Strikeforce. Mm-hmm. And like the first card I remember like watching where I actually like cared about the main event was like when he fought BJ Penn like on the UFC. So that was like 2011 or something. So but that was like probably like the first like where I was like invested in like Nick winning or whatever.
That was a dark day, man. That was a dark day. Had to see BJ Penn crying in the ring with two black eyes.
Yeah, the end of that fight too was epic too because that was the Where You At George interview.
Yes, exactly. But no, all I remember from that event was BJ Penn like retiring after the fight, you know, on the mic. That was I was sad to see a hero like that going out like that. So
yeah, man. Now in hindsight, though, you kind of almost wish you would have went through with that retirement though back then.
No, not a mixed martial artist. Not a mixed martial artist. Taekwondo black belt. That's all. No mixing them. But she was a big fan of the sport, and she got me into the UFC. She was obsessed with it. So that's. Yeah, that's all I've ever watched, man. That's why I don't know what the rules to any other sport is. Wasn't allowed to be played in the household, just only fighting. But all that aside, man, cool to have a little backstory on where you came from with your journey through this shit, man. So we can move on to Sean O'Malley challenging the champion Aljamain Sterling at bantamweight. 5 scheduled rounds of action in the main event if we need all of them. Very basic matchup here, skill set wise. We've got a strong grappler in Aljamain Sterling taking on a very strong switch stance kickboxer in Sean O'Malley. Both guys pretty large for the weight class, with Aljamain Sterling obviously very heavily muscled for the weight class. 23-3. We've got Sean O'Malley, who's 16-1 at this point with 1 no contest. And man, both guys have had very strange routes to this fight. Like they've been kind of protecting Sean O'Malley's star power, trying to get him eventually to a title shot. And you know, goddamn, the guy has done it, even beating Peter Yan last October for a split decision win. But before that, you know, he had a no contest against Pedro Munhoz in a fight that was competitive, you know, probably not going his way in the early going. He might have been gaining some steam in that fight in round 2, but the eye poke rendered that a no contest early. Other than that, I mean, the guy he's been finishing fights, but I mean, you got Chris Moutinho in there. You got a washed up Thomas Almeida in there. You've got a washed-up Eddie Wineland in there. You've got the Marlon Chito Vera loss in round 1 a few years back. So it's been kind of a sketchy route, but there is no doubt about it. This guy is a very dangerous Muay Thai striker. And Aljamain Sterling is a guy who could easily nullify that in a heartbeat by just jumping on his back, getting the fight to the mat any way necessary. And as far as his title run has gone, he's been, you know, he won the belt by DQ. He won a greasy split against Peter Yan in the rematch. TJ Dillashaw's arm falls out of his socket, you know, in their fight. Henry Cejudo's a split decision. So I'm going to sit back just like the co-main event and probably have no action on this fight because you've got Aljamain Sterling minus 250 favorite. Sean O'Malley has been taking some betting love on the market. He's plus 210, the underdog. But, dude, could this not be a sketchier fight? Like, I know on paper this would be like Aljamain just jumps on his back and controls him, submits him, or, just wins the fight that way. But dude, we haven't seen Sean O'Malley against many strong grapplers, and we haven't seen Aljamain Sterling. He might be better on the feet than we expect. So both guys could have better skills in their opposite discipline than we give them credit for. And there's just so much sketchiness in the results of their fight that I don't want anything to do with putting my money on this fight. So probably going to be a pass for me, but do you have any more confidence in one side? Are you backing Sean O'Malley to become the first pink afroed champion on Saturday?
Man, I mean, I will say, I'm pretty shocked, how many people are picking Sean, man. It's crazy. It's 90% of people are picking Sean, even people that have channels and stuff, because it's I picked Sean against Petr Yan, and I feel like no one was picking him in that fight. And it's that, to me, was a way easier stylistic matchup. And then now it's he's the hot pick this week, where, I don't know. I feel like you said, it's there are it's hard to really know how either guy's going to do against this style, because they haven't really faced this style in a while. You're naming the guys that Aljo is fighting, and they're all short, stocky guys. I guess TJ's a little bigger, but obviously Sean's a way different build than Petr Yan or Henry Cejudo or someone like that. So that could play in his benefit, where he's going to be easier to take down Sean because he's long and lanky like that. One thing I will say, from the Petr Yan fight, Petr Yan was lifting him off the ground, slamming him like he was a bitch. So I feel like Aljo is gonna be way physically stronger, unless he's somehow lifted some weights and gotten bigger during this year layoff or whatever. And I think a lot of people are weighing these intangible or out of the octagon type of things a lot more than they should, the weight cut and the short amount of time. I don't think Aljo has a bad weight cut. People always bring that up, but his last fight he weighed in at 134. Why would he be cutting? You look at his title fights, I think 3 out of 4 he's weighed in under the limit. He was 145 and a half twice.
That's yeah, it's not like he has to get the box of shame and then have another hour to cut weight.
And then today at the press conference, he's full of energy, screaming and yelling. It's the day before the weigh. So it's obviously I don't think his weight cut is as bad as people kind of try to say. I think it's more him saying I want to move up, why people think he has a bad weight cut. But I think a lot of that also has to do with Moroz being in the division, that he wants to move up to kind of let Moroz get the title. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to pick Sean in the fight, man, just because he's never been in a main event. We've never seen him go 5 rounds. We've never seen him really against a good grappler, a wrestler. And the couple of times we've seen him get put on his back, he's quit. Even that, if you go all the way back to his amateur fights, when he fought that one dude, I don't know if you've seen that fight, where he won by DQ, where the guy was beating him up from full mount, and then he gave his back and he hit him in the back of the head, and O'Malley kind of milked it to get the DQ win. So that was
I saw that a long time ago when I was researching.
That was an amateur fight, but that was a quick job when he got put on on bottom. And then you watch the fight with Cheeto, and you could say, oh, he was injured and everything like that, but it's he got pounded out really quick when he got put on his back. So the few times that we've seen Sean on bottom in MMA fights, he just hasn't looked that good, and it's hard for me to think that he's just going to one-shot Aljo early. Aljo's been knocked out once with that knee against Moroz, but I don't know.
Badly, though. That was a murder.
Yeah, but that knee, it's that knee probably would have knocked out a heavyweight. It was freaking perfect placement shot right on his chin. But I don't know. I feel like Sterling's going to get the win here. I could see Sean knocking him out, but I don't like Sean's confidence level either. He's saying I have to knock him out before he grabs me. So you're saying you have only have a puncher's chance to win?
Oh really? Oh, that's not a good sign.
And his coaches are saying the same thing too. Tim Welch was saying he could definitely knock him out. But he's got to knock him out before Aljo grabs him. It's what is that really the game plan? I don't think that's a great game plan. But they could
at least they're being realistic.
Yeah, but it's I don't know. I feel like Aljo is just going to have a big advantage on the ground, from what I've seen in Sean's MMA fights. Even if you go watch Sean grappling, I just don't think it translates that good. When he's doing the gi grappling, I don't think it's you see him using the lapels, grabbing the wrists and all that a lot. Even when he was fighting Cheeto, it looked like he was trying to grab his freaking wrist. He's trying to I don't know. It's he's in a jiu-jitsu match on the ground. I did
rewatch that last night. I saw that.
Yeah. It's kind of strange. I don't think he has a lot of, maybe like the one thing though that is on Sean's side, I will say, it's like they've given him like, it's now or never, right? They gave him a year and a half to prepare for one guy and like get his grappling up to 100. So he could potentially, show us something, but I just feel like Aljo's like way more proven. You have to pick him. So
it's also a style where like Sterling, it's so hard for his style to not win minutes. You know what I mean? So you're going to be winning minutes of the fight if you're grabbing the back, pulling him down to your guard. Like I see some people even pointing out that are on the Sean O'Malley side, like the less than average takedown accuracy of Sterling, but it's like the guy's shooting a million takedowns. They're not going to hit every single time.
Yeah,
but as soon as he does, nobody's getting back up. So. I think it's going to be a lot of the minutes, but dude, can we not? What if we did have what if O'Malley is a little bit better defensively and we have some sort of weird decision result where it's like we're having this conversation all over again, like Peter Yan, where it's like damage versus control time, and people have that whole narrative, and there's a weird, sketchy split decision.
Or even I don't think it's gonna happen, but it is like setting up where it's like this is kind of like for Sean, it's like the Conor versus Aldo moment, right? Like if he goes in there and KOs him like the first 20 seconds, he's going to be like the next huge star. But I don't know. I don't see that happening.
That'd be crazy. But yeah, we're on the same side of this one. The Aljamain Sterling path. I'm not going to overthink this. It seems like the easiest way to go. Just a complete dominant style. He's fought the better competition by far. Been the championship rounds. So all of these things go in his favor. And I think we still get an and still on Saturday night, but no bets on this one, right? Are we staying off this one, or do you have overs, unders, anything like that sticking out?
I think if you look at the under 4.5, I think it's like a decent bet. I think you could bet that because I think it's either Sean's going to knock him out early, I think, or I think he'll I see a lot of people saying Aljo's going to get tired, but I guess Aljo's gotten tired in other fights, but I don't trust Sean to have a gas tank when he has this 165-pound gorilla on his back in the first round. If he can't stop the wrestling, I think he'll get tired too, man. So I feel like it's going to be Sean could KO him early, Aljo could get him out of there early, or Aljo could get him out of there in the later in the fight. So I think the under 4.5 is decent.
Looking at the under 4.5 on Bovada, minus 190 right now. That's the way I would lean with this as well. But man, on the same side of that, I think we only had a couple of disagreements in this one, man. There's a lot of underdogs we lined up on. Since I didn't do a full card breakdown, I'll just shout them out. Starting from the bottom to the top, I had Marina Moroz as an underdog, Natalia Silva, GM3 as an underdog, Brad Katona, Kurt Holobaugh as a dog, Rodrigues taking Tavares, taking Marlonchito Vera, Damon Blackshear as a dog, Ian Garry, Zhang Weili, and Aljamain Sterling. So yeah, there's a couple of those spots where you're taking the dog and I'm taking the favorite, like the Weidman fight, the Munhoz fight. But I don't disagree with your lead on those decision props either. So a lot of spots that we can find a consensus on. Hope you guys enjoyed MMA Prediction Guru the first time on my show. It was an absolute pleasure breaking it down with you. Everybody in the chat, I appreciate all of you guys. And make sure you give this guy some love. Follow him on Twitter. Follow him on YouTube if you have not. And check out his Patreon, which is also in the description. Do you want to speak on the Patreon and the kind of stuff you've got over there?
Yeah, man. So basically on Patreon, I'll put access to all my bets, so UFC bets, and then I also will do sometimes I'll do videos, sometimes it'll be written breakdowns for a lot of different promotions, man, hundreds of fights, Aries FC, like you're saying, level all the way to PFL, LFA, there's KSW that's going to be going on Saturday. I got a couple bets that I'm probably going to be doing for that. So, yeah, man, just there's a lot of MMA that's, not just UFC. And I like to do those videos on my channel, but they don't get a lot of views, man. So it's you want to support those lower promotions, I feel like. It's you'll see some of those guys come to the UFC too. So I always like watching the lower level MMA too anyway. So. Yeah, man, and right now it's a good time. I mean, PFL is going on, and we got the Contender Series, so there's some stuff that'll be on Patreon for sure.
Yeah, good. So check that out because I don't cover that on my channel. We just have too much UFC these days, dude. They're rocking anywhere between 40 and 46 events a year, and we have very few off weeks. I used to like to do LFA or Bellator on the off weeks, but now I just never have time with everything going on. So You know, if I just don't sleep, which sometimes happens, maybe I'll start cranking out more of that. But in the meantime, go check out my guy Guru's Patreon. Get your MMA fix and all different promotions. You could have bets on Thursday, Friday, Saturday on all different promotions and be making money with this guy. So again, Guru, it was an absolute pleasure. Good luck to everybody in the chat this weekend. Enjoy the pay-per-view. Make buckets of money. And I will be back in a couple of days. Actually, no, I'll have it out by tomorrow since it's Friday. I'll have my best bets and props out probably tomorrow morning. So check that out, and I will talk to you guys all next time. Cheers.
Peace.